welcome everybody here today, and again to thank His Excellency the Minister for joining us, and for everybody for taking the time out of their very busy schedule to be here and join in the conversation. And just to emphasize that word, today is a conversation. We emphasize the conversation we'll have on the stage, and everybody in the audience, please feel free to jump in at any moment you feel compelled, but certainly in the second half of the discussion where we're going to the floor. I'm going to start with Dr. Ramsey, because as Abdalla pointed out, you have a deep history and knowledge of the subject that we are all great admirers of. You are, as you told me outside, a PhD student when OPEC was founded. You said, though, that at the time, the founding of OPEC didn't make a lot of noise. I'm wondering if you could just sort of paint a picture at the time why it emerged, OPEC emerged, the logic behind it, and some of your thoughts on whether those have been achieved.
Thank you, Sean. As you mentioned, it's a long time ago, it's 50 years, more than 50 years. And at the time, of course, the media was not the same. And whatever happens, you hear about it 3 months later. When OPEC was found, in fact, started actually in late 50s when they were talking about it. And the lead, and this is to be fair, was for Venezuela. Alfonso, Minister of Energy of Venezuela at the time, he was actually the man who did all the crusading to get OPEC started. It was only after successive official price reductions that irritated OPEC, the producers at the time, there was no OPEC, and caused them to campaign for forming an organization or a group who can talk to the Seven Sisters. As you all know, all the concessions in most of the Middle East and even Latin America, they were considered spoils of war. It was shared between the victorious powers. So the Middle East was mainly France and Britain, and then the Americans came in for their share. So you had this area pretty well covered, and the people had no say in it at all. The companies decided the posted price, decided the government share, the government take, effectively decided what is the income of each country. And it reached at times that some governments in the Middle East could not pay salaries at the end of the month because the previous month the production was low and they did not have enough money. So they had to get an advance from the company, actually ask the companies to give them a loan or advance on future payments so that they can pay salaries and things like that. And that was very irritating. And Venezuela, of course, had the next door, Mexico, who was the first to nationalize the industry. And then there was a meeting in Cairo, before the meeting in Baghdad, where the people decided. And of course, you know, you had, in Iraq, you had Abdul Karim Qasim running the show after the change from the kingdom in 1958. You had Toreki in Saudi Arabia, and he was a rebel himself in Saudi terms. And they were the people who really decided. Kuwait was fairly neutral. Iran was also fairly neutral in that aspect. So the credit goes really to Venezuela and Saudi Arabia.
And just to jump in there, would that have been a kind of a radical decision at the time, or would it have been revolutionary, to use a common word at the moment?
It was a radical. It was made a big shift, because those companies, who are they? Who are those companies? Companies are the British and the American and the French governments. And to do that at the time, and effectively all these countries were occupied countries or protectorates, to make decisions like that was a drastic move. And then there was a meeting in Cairo in which Alfonso attended. And at the same time, the companies, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks before that meeting, reduced the postage prices again. And that got it, and then they agreed to meet in Baghdad. And in Baghdad, it didn't take long to actually do the work. The charter was prepared, everything was prepared in advance, as it was only a ceremonial thing. So everything was done in Cairo, really, before they came to Baghdad.
Was there any pushback from the companies to try and derail this new idea?
No, the companies at the time considered this is a game or a move by those people, only to push them, a little to pressure them, but they knew they were in control, and those people cannot do anything. And if you look at the first 10 years of OPEC life, nobody took them seriously. The first 10 years, up to early 70s, nobody took the OPEC seriously, because they had no. Even some countries, like Qatar, for example, joined OPEC after its foundation. OPEC charter was signed in September 1960. Qatar applied for membership in January 1961. And Qatar was still a protectorate. It had not had its independence. So there was a move by some of the people which the companies did not consider very serious.
Maybe, Ali, I'll ask you to come in at this point with some opening remarks. His Excellency did point out that one of the first moves by Sheikh Zayed when he took power in Abu Dhabi was to join OPEC. Would I invite you to make some opening comments?
Well, thank you very much, Sean. Well, we started with very hot topic over here.
Yeah, well.
Go reflecting history.
Revolutions in the air, Ali. You know.
That's right. So let me calm it down a bit.
Okay.
I believe that first let me express our thanks and appreciations to His Excellency for making the time and inaugurating this important gathering, which is an anniversary of the 50th anniversary of the OPEC. So we do appreciate his support and being available for us this morning. Of course, there are a few messages that His Excellency put in front of us over here, which we can debate and discuss. And one of them is the role of the OPEC in helping UAE take in charge of its own destiny. And that's one message which we can discuss over here. And the role of the OPEC in benefit of oil market as a whole, not just looking after producers, but also looking after producers and consumers and the whole economy as a whole. Another important area, which is OPEC ability to respond to changing events, as His Excellency mentioned, that it has been going through dramas. And the minister even, he missed one drama, which is taking the ministers hostage in 1975.
I just went to see that movie, actually, Carlos, which was out recently.
Well, myself, I'm looking forward also to see.
It was interesting. All the sights of Vienna for people who go to OPEC.
Another point, which is OPEC role in terms of promoting development by many different means. His Excellency mentioned the creation of the OPEC fund, which has been a lot of the media and a lot of the a lot of the experts are not paying attention to this important aid. So apart from member countries, I know for sure UAE is categorized one of the biggest donors in supporting different nations. Imagine the OPEC fund been supporting around 176 countries, and we are talking about close to $15 billion been contributed.
It's interesting when you compare to what Ramzi just said, that starting out getting cents on the dollar, depending on what the month was, to building a fund of $15 billion to give as aid. That's
not building the fund $15 billion, but what been already donated is close to $15 billion. So that's a lot of money and a lot of donation been done by the OPEC member countries, apart from doing whatever they are doing in individual basis.
Right.
So going back to the history, I believe Dr. Ramzi, when we landed to September 14th, 1960, there has been a series of meetings before that day. So it's not really, it's been just one meeting and it's created the OPEC. There has been a series of meetings and a lot of discussion, a lot of talks, which is Venezuela played a big part of it. But of course, it's been supported by other producing countries, which landed in the creation of the OPEC. So it's not an overnight, it's not in 1 year. I believe it's been more than 2 years or 3 years.
And as Dr. Ramzi said, Imad, it took a decade for people to take OPEC seriously. I'm wondering, in terms of Saudi Arabia, and you spent a lot of your career with Saudi Aramco, and a product of the